For decades, the Lithia Bay Charter has kept the vast majority of land protected. It was a firewall designed to stop the region from being paved over by developers. But that firewall is about to crack. Lionel Linwood's son, Lex, just announced he is running in the upcoming election. His entire campaign is built on one promise: unlock the land. He plans to dissolve the charter and open the floodgates for development. Tess Mercer sees the writing on the wall. If Lex wins, the county becomes a rubber stamp that approves all of his father's projects. But the problem is, his message is working. There's a massive voting bloc that's tired of apartment living. They want the modern suburban dream: paved driveways, a big yard, manicured lawns, and a quick commute. Lex is promising to give it to them. Tess knows the city needs to grow, but she refuses to let a single family hold a monopoly on the housing market. So to stop him, she has to steal his platform. She breaks this protected corridor into smaller subdivisions and fast-tracks permits for every local builder in the county. That way, the city gets the growth it wants without handing the Linwoods the control they crave. So today, we're going to sprawl like we've never sprawled before. We're carving out a massive new district right beside Cherrytown, dropping a giant Walmart right in the center, and building out all of the services needed to get this place running. Let's jump in. Alright, so first things first, we need to give ourselves a bit of leeway. So we're going to open up our taxation, and we're going to increase commercial tax to 8%. And that gives us a pretty good middle ground. We're not making too much, but we're also not on the verge of being bankrupt. Now that we're finally making some money, I want to explain what we're going to do in this area. So this is essentially going to be suburbia. This would be fairly new development. And so because of that, our grid is going to be a bit different than everything else that we have right now. One of the biggest considerations we'll have to keep in mind is that we don't want to pull any connections from this road, but we still want these areas to be connected, so we might run a bridge. And I think we're definitely going to have to throw in a Walmart, because what suburban area wouldn't have a nice big Walmart with a massive parking lot? And for Walmart, it's going to be a pretty good deal too, because they can post some signs right alongside here, make sure everyone knows that this is where Walmart is. Now to get started, we're going to build out our grid. And for our grid, we're going to have one major road. And let's go with this nice 4-lane divided road right here. Roughly in the middle of this road, I'm going to pull straight up. And then similar thing with our highway, we're going to go out 20 units. And now we're just going to curve these into each other. And we're going to cut off this section right here. And this will serve as the major road for all of our smaller grids in our suburbia. Oh wait, I forgot, we don't even own this tile, do we? No, we don't. And if we want to develop in this area and this area right here, we're going to need at least $332,000. And while we're at it, we'll probably want to buy this one and this one. So I'm going to let things simulate for a second. And I am way too impatient to wait any longer, so let's open up our tiles and see if we can get at least one of these. And we can actually buy these two right here. So that's going to cost us $69,000 per month and $332,000 up front, which is almost all of our money, but it shouldn't be a big deal because we have the extra tax revenue. Now let's get our Walmart in, and really, we want to put this somewhere where we wouldn't want our housing to be. And ideally, we'll have the back of the building front the highway. They'd also probably request being close to this 4-lane right here. So with that in mind, I'm thinking we're going to place this Walmart right here. Now we're going to grab an alleyway and we're going to run this right in front of the building. Then we're going to grab our invisible road path with parking. And then we just want to make sure that the only snappings we have on are snap to zoning cell length, snap to 90-degree angles, and just to start out, I want to snap to the zoning grid because this is going to help us keep everything nice and orientated. Now, typically these parking lots are almost the same size as the building, so let's get a sense for how long this is. And we're at roughly 16.5 units, which means we're going to make our parking lots 16 units long. I want to try to align with this road right here. And looking at that, it's pretty big. Now we're going to do the same thing on this side as well. I want to orientate it so that our middle road is aligned with this road right here. and we're gonna go out 16 units. And this right here is when we want to turn off snap to zoning grid. Now we're just gonna continue the exact same pattern all the way down. And that right there gives us one massive parking lot. It's actually kind of crazy how big the parking lot is. I want to run an alleyway road around our parking just so we can get to this road right here. And that's going to be a big help because even if you have snap to the sides of a building enabled, you can't actually snap to this parking. Now I want to connect this alleyway into our main road, and let's try and do that at a 90. And we're definitely going to remove these lights. And then we're also going to give one more way in, and we're going to do that from this connection. And I'm wondering, is that enough to give it power and utilities? And unfortunately, it doesn't seem like it. So let's figure out where we need to connect into. Looking at our water, I think this is going to be the easiest one. We're just going to grab one of our rural highways that carries water, power, and sewage, and we're going to upgrade all along this side. And now all of our roads carry water, sewage, and power, which means now we're ready to get back to work on our Walmart. And I just want to take this pavement surface 1. I'm going to use the area bucket tool, and we'll set our area to 250 meters. And then when we hover over our parking, we should see that it pretty much perfectly confines to it. Now this isn't too bad, but it's really just one sea of gray, and I want there to feel like there's some differences. So we're going to use this black color right here. It's set at 50% opacity. And then all we're going to do is paint directly over all of our parking lots. And now to make this even better, let's hover over all of our alleyways, and we're going to do the exact same thing with them as well. Let's also grab our concrete strip, which is very dark, and we're going to replace this surface. And there we go. That looks so much better. I really want there to be concrete islands in between. And so the way we're going to achieve that is by using the concrete surface 01. And we're going to do the exact same thing with our area bucket. So we'll just click and fill in all of these gaps. And the only problem I have with that is it's probably a bit too wide. Maybe if we add some lights, it'll look a bit nicer. So we'll grab this light pole right here, and we're going to keep them spread across by about 20 meters. And that definitely helps make it feel not so wide. So I'm going to leave it there for now. I would like one more shopping center, but I want to get that in afterwards because I want to start laying out the roads for our grid, and that's going to really help determine where the other shopping will go. So we're going to use this suburban 2-lane road with no markings. We're going to make it nice and curvy. We're going to have a bunch of cul-de-sacs, and we'll have it end in kind of random places. So I'm going to quickly build out our grid. Now there's one thing I want to be careful of, and that's limiting the access across this highway, because in future developments, I could easily see us going over this highway. So I want to make sure that I have a reminder to myself and that I'm planning for that. So we'll start our bridge here, and then let's see the height difference between these two roads. That's 23%, that's pretty crazy. I would say let's just trim down this bridge a bit more, but we need to maintain the right-of-way for future highway expansion. So instead, let's delete this road right here, and we'll delete this one. And now we should have way more room to bridge up. And then when we continue our bridge, we want to make sure that we're going over our tracks. And we need a bit more room here, that way we can actually come down at a respectable height. And that's not perfect by any means, but it should do the trick for now. Because we severed one connection from this area, I want to make sure we're adding in at least one more. And what better spot than the alleyway that runs directly into Walmart? And we will maintain the traffic lights here because we're definitely going to need them for our bridge segment. And then for any hard corners like this right here, I want to use move it and manipulate mode to just soften them up a tiny bit. Just like that right there. So now we have a nice sweeping turn, and I think it looks a lot more suburban. Now we need to add in at least one more connection into this area because it's all relying on Applegate Street, and that's really just not good enough. So we're going to take our suburban 2-lane road, we're going to snap onto one of these points here, and then we're going to send this along the water, and we need a connection point, and we definitely don't want to connect too close to this junction. So let's say we're going to connect somewhere right around here. And because we have this road over here, we might as well develop this area too. We don't have as much room, so we're just going to use some alleyways. And to keep it simple, we're just going to do something like that for now. Now let's grab our suburban 2-lane road again, and we're going to expand our grid, but this time we're going to do it around here. So we're going to pull this road all the way down, and then I want to maintain about one full circle from the highway. Let's call it 10 units for good luck. Now we'll send this straight up, and then we'll curve into this road. We'll delete our connection to the highway because we definitely don't want that. Now let's just do a nice little wrap around this curve. Then we'll snap onto our zoning grid. We'll send this up. And again, we want a nice gentle curve right here. And now we're going to wrap around the front of our Walmart. And then we're going to connect in at a 90 right about here. Now, the only thing that I don't like about this layout is that we don't have the ability to bridge over. There just isn't enough room. So let's delete this section right here. We're also going to delete this one. And now let's grab another 4-lane divided road. And this time we're going to follow alongside this alleyway. We'll make our way to here, and that's when we're going to start making our bridge. And now this is going to be a pain, but I'm going to delete these alleyways. I'm also going to delete this road right here. Then using Move It, I'm going to make sure everything is selected. Then we'll grab our entire Walmart, and we're just going to nudge this further back. Now the reason we did that is because we're actually going to rework our connections into our Walmart. And I can see that our parking lots are perfectly aligned with the Walmart sign. So let's do the exact same thing with our one-way alleys. Let's get rid of the lights, and we're also going to get rid of the crosswalks. And we're also going to do a bit of fixes with our surfaces. So now we're keeping the connections off of our main arterial, and instead we're relocating them to essentially what is our collector right now. Now ideally we'll have more than one connection into Walmart. So let's expand our grid in this area right here. And we've hit milestone 14, we're now a grand city. So what does that get us? Buildings that we've already placed and a higher loan limit. Oh no, we do not need a higher loan limit. If anything, we need a smaller loan limit. Right now we still have about 1.5 million to pay back, and we're gonna get there very soon. But anyways, now I can see where our next shopping area needs to go. And we're gonna want to go out 7 units because that'll give us 3 units on each side. We'll wrap that around and connect it in. And now we're going to open up platter. We want to go 3 deep, and I'm not too worried about how wide it is, but I do know that we want some southwestern low density business, and we just want to maximize the amount of space that we're using. And then we just need one more parking lot, but I want this one to look slightly different from our Walmart parking lot. That way they're kind of distinguished. And something like that should do the trick. When it comes to detailing, we'll come back and fix any issues or small tweaks that we need to make. I just want to connect into our grid, just like that right there. And now we're going to place down a bit more commercial, but first, let's get a gas station in. And on this side, let's go 2 units deep. And now I want to get rid of these zoning tiles back here, because I want these lots to be as deep as possible, because that should give us some car-centric uses. And then last but not least, before we can do any residential zoning in this area, we just need to finish the grid over here. And before we can do that, we actually need to buy this zoning tile. And it's only going to cost $16,000 per month and $83,000 up front. We are good to go. Now I'm going to quickly get this done. And until we do some zoning, this area is done for now. So now I want to move on to this one. And right away, we're going to buy this tile, $27,000 per month and $148,000 up front. Not bad at all. Now we need to continue our 4-lane divided road, and we're going to end that right here. And the reason we won't go any further is because we don't want to connect into our highway road. Now we're just going to want at least one more connection into our 4-way highway. And I want to make sure that each connection has a good amount of spacing because we don't want too many roads connecting into our 4-way highway. Then really all we need to do to finish off this area is just add in more sprawl. And this is our final grid. I know some people are going to hate this, some people will love it. As a whole, this is a really car-centric design, and yet it's an area that would be in high demand because there's tons of people who would want to live here. It's essentially the dream of having a detached house, a yard, all in a quiet, safe area. There's also lots of cul-de-sacs. The roads pretty much terminate randomly, and the goal of that really is to stop people from driving into these areas. So the only reason you should come into Pleasant Street or even Holly Street is if you live here or you're visiting someone who lives here. And this is also going to be a way to deliver lots of housing fast because it's going to be much more straightforward to construct, to get all the permits for, and to finance at a much larger scale. Now with all of that said, let's jump into zoning. And for zoning, we're definitely going to have to use platter because these roads are curvy. We're just going to mix it up between our rezoned southwestern, our waterfront housing, our normal southwestern, and maybe we'll throw in some basic and some modern as well. Alright, and there's all of our zoning in. Now there's one important thing that I want to do before we move forward. In the platter settings, we're going to click General, and then we're going to delete all parcels. I've noticed lots of people talking about crashing, bugs, and issues. I never have them, and this is only a guess, but it might be due to the fact that I delete the plats after everything zones in. Speaking of everything zoning in, it looks like we have this section right here which didn't fill in. And I believe that's just because we didn't buy the tile. Alright, much better. Now we're going to need 2 districts. Our first district is currently called Birchbrook. We have 791 residents, and the average wealth is poor. Now, with that depressing fact, let's create our second district. And Cypress Peak currently has 596 residents, 52 dogs, and the average wealth is still poor. As always though, if you have a better name for either Cypress Peak or Birchbrook, make sure to drop your suggestions in the comments. Now it's time to get some services in. Starting with our elementary school, I've left a plot open over here. And of course, we're going to go with our Southwestern Elementary School, although it looks like we might need to do some finessing to make this work. We're going to add all of our upgrades that fit within the footprint of the building. And that's because we're going to set this elementary school to serve our 2 new districts along with Spruce Brook. I'm going to try and use my imagination here and pretend that there's a school bus that drives along the highway, picks all of the kids up, takes them to school, and drives them back. Now for our high school, we're going to go with our Southwest, mostly just because it's a really big asset and I feel like it's a strong fit for all of our sprawl. The only issue is that I didn't leave enough room to actually get it in. So let's rework the area across from Walmart. Now we're going to snap the school to the highway. Then we're going to run a suburban road from our main road into the front of the school. And if we're lucky, we can get a nice complex curve. Now we're going to set the operating district of this building to be the exact same as our elementary school. So we'll accept any spillover from Spruce Brook. All that's left is to fix all of our zoning for this area, but I want to reserve this land beside the school for any future upgrades we might need. Now we have a tiny issue. Our high school took up a large chunk of our money, and we're starting to get hearse icons over in Birchbrook, but we can't afford any crematoriums. And given that this is all new development, I really don't see a small-scale cemetery here, especially because once a cemetery is built, it's pretty much there forever. No one wants to be the person to bulldoze a cemetery. So with that in mind, let's temporarily borrow our crematorium from Cherrytown. At the moment, it has 0 vehicles in use, which is great, but it's also a really far drive, which isn't so great. Either way, we're going to make do, and we'll set this to operate in both new districts. Next up, our healthcare isn't looking so good, and based on our budget, we're going to add in 2 small Netherland clinics. We want to place both of them where there's really good road access, or at the very least in a central location. So we'll place the first one right here, right across from our elementary school. And the next one we're going to place directly on our 4-lane road. It isn't ideal to be dumping traffic onto this road, but given the capacity this facility has, I really don't think we need to worry about it. Now we still need to add in police and fire, but we're still pretty broke. So in the meantime, let's add in some mail along with some more commercial. And there's nothing more that drives me crazy than cars parking on alleyways. This is going to be a fairly straightforward fix. Using Road Builder, we'll create a duplicate, and then we'll add shoulders with a width of 2 meters. And I know we need money, so I really shouldn't be bulldozing commercial, but I just don't think this came out right, so I want to quickly rework it. And you know what, honestly, to help solve our money issue, I'm going to do some detailing to pass the time. For detailing, I want to fix up our Walmart. We'll add in the signs, we'll dirty up our parking lots, and we're also going to fix this concrete surface because it's just way too wide. We'll also clean up some of the commercial over here and really get this feeling more integrated. Lastly, I want to make our trumpet feel a bit more welcoming, and I want to spray trees everywhere. Let's jump into detailing. And that's pretty much going to be detailing for now. I always got to remind myself not to go too crazy. This area will evolve and change over time, but the good news is we now have enough money to place a fire station and a police station. So this isn't really that big of an area, so I'm not worried if it isn't placed perfectly central. The one thing that I want to make sure that our police and fire station have is good road access, just because of how crazy our roads are, which means when I'm looking at where to place this, I'm honestly thinking we'll place it right here, and I'm sorry to the people who have to live right behind a police station, and then I'm double sorry to make it even worse by adding in a fire station. Now we're going to set both of these to operate in only Cypress Peak and Birchbrook, and that should be all of our services. Actually, wait, do we have garbage management over here? No, we do not. Now that we're making a bit of extra money, let's actually give this a bit more vehicles. Now this should give us a total of 12 vehicles. I'm really hoping that helps because it's still such a small facility for such a large area. Although this is specifically regarded as a waste collection center, so I guess that's something to keep in mind as well. Actually, a big thing we're missing is parks, yet somehow we're still okay. And I think that's just because we have so many parks over here. Either way, at the very least, we can definitely get a playground in, and we'll just place a few of them pretty much all over. And with that, all of our services, our parks, everything should be in good working order. We're making a whole bunch of money, $39,000 per hour. Let's go into our services and fix our road maintenance budget. And let's take all of our current money and pay back as much as we can with our loan. Yeah, so we still owe 1.1 million, but we're making headway, and that's all that matters. Now with all of that, let's jump into a quick before and after. And that's a wrap. If you made it this far, thanks for watching. I really do hope you enjoyed. Huge thanks to all of our amazing Patreon and YouTube members. Today's shoutouts go to Jake Hill, Gary Key, Deku, and Freya Stark, and to everyone else supporting the channel in any way. Seriously, it's really appreciated. If you want sneak peeks or access to the save files, you can join us over on Patreon or YouTube. If you haven't already, a like, comment, and subscription really go a long way. And other than that, I'll see you in the next one.